Hello, everyone. Welcome in. While you're getting adjusted and situated, just a couple of reminders. Please mute yourselves when you're not asking a question. Please only ask one question at a time. No follow-ups or questions in multiple parts to be fair to everyone's time. And please say your name and your outlet before your first question. All right, and with that, we'll begin with Kathy Copcutt with Bel Air Mommy.
Well, first, let me say hi and thank you for taking the time to do this. I'm thrilled to see you ladies. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for sharing your beautiful story with us.
Thank you.
It was absolutely, it took my breath away, and I'm going to pick up the book. We're going to be on a plane ride soon, so I'm going to pick up the book because I was trying to explain to my son. He goes, "Oh, you're watching a movie," and I said, "It's not a movie; it's a life story. Come sit and watch it with me." And then there were some points where I was like, "Go to the kitchen," and then I'll go to the kitchen and stay there for a couple minutes. I wanted to know. I know why you were inspired to do it, but what? And I've got to think of another word. What made you want to do this? To share it with the world, because it's touching.
I initially just needed some way to channel my grief because I felt like I was going to lose my mind if I didn't. And then I thought, I'm the only national journalist in the country who's had that knock at the door where you open it up and soldiers are standing there and they don't even have to say a word. And I wanted families, people to understand what that feels like, so that I know folks, respect the military, but could even have a greater appreciation for military service and to realize it's not just the soldier who serves, but it's the family. Beyond that, I had this incredible man, and I was so proud of him and the journal that he left for us and for our son, that I wanted people to know about that. I wanted them to know about, a positive father, a positive Black father. And then also I was hoping that I could share a word about resilience. Everybody goes through something, and to see the arc of my life, realizing that when I started this journey, the day I found out he died, success that day was just getting off the floor because I had collapsed onto the hardwood floor screaming. And now to fast forward, Jordan's 15, he's an honor student. We've been able to connect with people like you from all over the country and all over the world. So there is an arc to life, and we're not victims. We're not, we had a tragic thing happen to us, but I wanted people to see that there is hope on the other side, and you can return to a place of resilience and joy.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, our next question is with Nicole Perez with 5 little words.
Good morning, Dana. How are you?
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. So I was reading where you quoted that your husband was a procrastinator, and mine is like that too. So I just want to know, were you impressed how many pages he actually was able to write to Jordan, being that he's a procrastinator and the situation that he was in, the environment?
I am so glad you asked that. I was stunned because he didn't procrastinate on things like that. He procrastinated on things like planning our vacation, like, knowing that if he didn't do it, I would book the cruise or whatever. But he was very humble, pensive, cerebral, and quiet. He wrote love letters to me all the time, which I have in addition to the journal, but to see him become sort of obsessed with this journal, he filled it with 200 pages. I was shocked. And I don't think he realized that he was writing themes throughout the journal. There are themes he kept coming back to, which I don't think he did consciously. And they were his absolute devotion to military service, the power of God in his life, his utter expectation that Jordan respect women and his own respect for women, and his love for me. And I don't think he realized he was coming back to those themes over and over. I was just so proud of what he did, but I was absolutely shocked. And I sat there and I read those 200 pages in one setting with Jordan sleeping next to me. And I fell in love with Charles at a deeper level at that moment.
I love it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, our next question is with Shelby Barone, OC Mom Blog.
Hello.
Hi, Shelby.
Hi, how are you? The movie was fantastic.
Thank you.
I have a question. My question is you've done such a great job of keeping your husband alive in the world. You know, everybody, what are you doing to keep him real for Jordan?
Well, he's very real for Jordan. And that's an interesting question because in some ways I made him a little too real for Jordan. And so when Jordan was a little boy, he would sometimes say, Mommy, my daddy could run faster than that bus, couldn't he? Or my daddy could jump all the way up that building, couldn't he? And I say, no, Jordan, he could not. He was just a man. He was the finest man I ever knew, but he was a man. And so Jordan actually, you know, people refer to my book, but there is an actual journal with his father. You can feel where his dad pressed the page with the pen. You can still see the indentions. And so sometimes Jordan will ask me something and I'll say, go see what your dad had to say about that. And he'll pull out the journal. And I said, you know, you are having an ongoing conversation with your father that many fathers who are alive don't have with their children. And so he appreciates that. And this does make it very real for him, his father. And he's got his medals. And I asked him, in fact, I said, Jordan, do you want to wear your father's Purple Heart on the red carpet for the premiere? And he refused. And I said, why? And he said, Mom, I didn't earn that. So his father is very much alive in his heart.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question is with Angela Camacho with Queen Bee Latina.
Hi, good morning, Dana. Thank
Good
you
morning.
so much for sharing your story with us. It was absolutely beautiful. Just thinking about it, I'm trying not to cry right now because I
It's
just saw
okay,
it last
girl.
night.
Everybody all over the country is crying, so go right on
Yes.
ahead.
No, but what was it like for you and for Jordan to see your life story in a movie? What is that like?
It's interesting. People ask me, oh my gosh, what's Denzel like? What about what you wearing on the red carpet? Blah, blah, blah. I don't care about any of that. I mean, Denzel's a friend and that's what I care about. And he's so warm to us. And he called this morning because we have family in Kentucky and there was a tornado there and he wanted to make sure everybody was okay. He called to ask about Jordan today. He's going to see him this afternoon. Because he's made this feel personal to us, he invested in us as people, and that made it more real, I think, for him. He realized we weren't just characters on a page. And as he got to know that, he demanded that same thing of everyone involved with this picture. And so when I see it on the big screen, what I think about is, wow, these talented people who could turn down any project or pick up any project they want, Michael B. and Shantae and Denzel, did us the honor of not only agreeing to do this, but doing it in a way that feels personal and special to them. And therefore that comes across on screen. Denzel has said many times that I cried the first 2 times he said this, and I thought he was kidding. He said it's the most important thing he's done in his entire career. And you can see that in the performances. And I've said this to him a million times, I'll be grateful to him for the rest of my life.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, our next question is with Donna Barochki, Dangerous Cupcake Lifestyle.
Hi, Dana, it was absolutely beautiful.
Hello, thank you.
It's like thinking about it again, it's making me, I am both a widow and a veteran. And
I am so sorry for your loss.
it's been a
Thank
long
you
time,
for your
but
service. Thank you for your sacrifice. Did your husband die in combat?
No, it was a very long time
Okay.
ago. It was so much of the movie that I could relate to, and I just watched it on so many levels. I was like, wow. So, wow. So I just was
Okay.
curious. It was such an amazing story, and I love how much you brought him to life, and him walking outside of you on the sidewalk, and all the little things was just absolutely amazing. And you really led us into a very personal viewpoint of your relationship, and it was very special. So I guess my question is, what, in watching the movie, what was your best memory or most difficult, I guess, to re-envision for this movie and to see on screen after?
So the best part of it was watching Denzel and Shantae and Michael really get who we are and internalize that, because I knew it was going to influence what they did on the screen. So the first day we went to the set, Jordan and I took a duffel bag of things I wanted them to see, Michael in particular. So I took the actual physical journal, a few of Charles's medals. I took Charles's dog tags, and I took the outfit that Jordan wore to his father's funeral. And, you know, I wanted them to hold these items, and a few other things were in the bag, a stuffed animal that Charles brought back from Iraq for Jordan. And Mike, for a moment, had to walk away, you know, gather himself. And then he wore Charles's dog tags that day during shooting. And so I think this all made it visceral for them, and they poured that into their performances. So that was memorable. The hardest part for me was when we shot the scenes in Arlington Cemetery. Again, I was like laying down in a van, hyperventilating. That was the third worst day of my life, behind the day I got the news of his death and then obviously his funeral. But that pain was worth it to get to this moment, because that's a powerful part of the movie. And so that's the other thing I'd say, is that sometimes painful moments are useful. I was willing to go through that to be able to share what we ultimately released to the world with all of you.
It was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question is from Miss Bailey with Rockin' Mama.
Thank you again so much for sharing such a beautiful story. I
Thank you.
cried so much during the movie. I wanted to find out, as you were reading the journal, was there anything that you learned about your husband that maybe surprised you, or things that you didn't really expect?
Yes, there were. First of all, I didn't know he could write like that. Honestly, Charles was you got to understand, he barely spoke. He was very smart, but he barely spoke because he was so quiet and tender. You know, I would describe how shy and sweet he was. And then after he died, I was interviewing his soldiers, and they're like, man, we never met that guy. And so, you know, because they knew him as this fierce warrior, and I knew him as a teddy bear. The things that surprised me were some of the things that he reflected on, in, like, he wrote about the beauty of rainbows in the journal. And, you know, the expressions of love for me, I knew he loved me, but to see him write it to our son, where he said, if you want to know, he described all these things that you should look for in a woman, and then said, if you want to know what I look for in a woman, just look at your mom. Like, I was shocked about, you know, that. So it felt like he was flirting with me all over again. And it still does when I read those entries.
Thank you.
All right, our next question is with Selena Hughes with selenahughes.com.
Good morning, Dana. Thank you
Good
for
morning.
Good morning. I was a journaler growing up, so I really understood the power of journaling and getting all those emotions and feelings out. But what I really loved when I really thought about it after the fact was that African Americans, we don't have a lot of family heirlooms, and you created a family heirloom with that journal. I wanted to know, what was your instincts in the movie? Because I could tell you had a gut feeling that you needed to do something to connect your son with his dad, Charles. So what were your instincts and that pulled you to saying, please do this journal?
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for asking that. Before I answer it, I want to say one thing based on a theme that I'm hearing here. I think just because folks cry doesn't mean that it's a sad movie. It isn't. There are parts of it that are, of course, there are parts of it are sad. You can't love as deeply as we did and not be utterly devastated to lose it, of course. But it's funny. It's uplifting, I hope. And it, you know, the story overall is a testament to love and the enduring power of love. Love never dies. Love doesn't end. And so in that sense, I think it's an important movie for people to see with family. Excuse me. I think the holiday is a perfect time to see a movie like this with the people you love, when we're all reflecting on, you know, what we're grateful for. And we've been isolated during COVID. So hug somebody, take them along with you, you know. But in terms of this heirloom and what made me give it to him and what I was thinking, what is now an heirloom, and thank you, I think of it that way as well. I didn't really have to say, would you please do this? He took to it immediately.
Okay.
And I was in a store, actually. I was pregnant, 5.5 months pregnant, and I was buying a gift for a friend in a gift store. And I saw this and I thought, you know what? What if something happens to him over there? Like, I would at least want our child to see the words "I love you" on a page written from him. If that may be all he ever has of him.
Mhm.
And Charles became obsessed with it. He wouldn't put it down.
Yeah, he was very fortunate to have that journal. It's kind of a reinforcement of all that he represents. So it was
That's
beautiful.
exactly right. Thank
Mhm.
you.
Thank you.
All right, this question comes from Monica Young. My life is a journey. She couldn't be with us today, but her question is, do you have a part of the book that didn't make it into the movie that you wish had?
Not really. Not really. Actually, I have the opposite response, which is I can't believe how much of the book they did use. I'd say about 75% of the movie is even higher than that, maybe 80% actually happened or was in the book. And that's because I was a producer on it, and Denzel made sure that he checked in with me regularly. The Virgil Williams, who I just had dinner with last night, the screenwriter, we went through page by page together, outlining the script. And Anj Janetti's amazing, badass woman from Sony, told them, look, just stick to the book. That's what women audiences in particular are going to want. So I think they got it right.
All right, our next question is back up to Kathy Copcutt with Belly.
So piggybacking off of what Monica had
Mhm.
asked you, was there anything in the movie that didn't make it that you did want to make? Did anything was there anything missed that you thought, you know what, I really wish this was portrayed or had been said?
Mhm. So it's a 2-hour and 10-minute movie, which is already long. There's nothing that was missed at all. And Denzel knows, obviously, movie making better than I ever will. So I trust him and I trust his choices. The one thing in the movie and that we had in the script that if we'd had time for might have been interesting to include was the scene that actually happened in real life where Charles had a nightmare when he came home to meet Jordan, and kind of woke up screaming and having flashbacks about blood and about Iraq. And I think that's the sort of thing that people don't see when a soldier is trying to transition back to civilian life, that it's not easy to do that. But what we did in the movie to sort of get to that transition, and I think it helped a lot and it worked, was where you see him having the breathing difficulties and where he hears that helicopter in the park. I don't want to give away too much of the movie. Those are the moments we tried to capture in the time that we had in the movie to show that it's not easy to fly out of Iraq and come spend time with your family and take off your military attire and to become a civilian again. It took him several days. He didn't eat for the first 4 days when he came home. He couldn't eat. And then slowly he came back to himself. And I think meeting his baby boy and giving him a bath and feeding him helped start to heal.
Normalcy is very difficult. It's PTSD.
Yes.
They're coming back from something unbelievably we would never ever see or know. And to come to normalcy is a huge shock. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, our next question is back to Nicole.
Yes, so I love the part where Charles wrote, be humble about your accomplishments, work harder than the man next to you. It's all right for boys to cry. Sometimes crying can release a lot of pain and stress. I like when a man tells their kid it's okay to cry, even a woman, but the men are the more harder ones, and they'll be like, well, don't cry, no boy is supposed to be crying. But I appreciate that he was able to let Jordan know, never be ashamed to cry. It's it has nothing to do with your manhood. So that part really touched me because I have 3 boys and a daughter. I'm a single mom, but still, you know, I'm not going to tell them don't cry. You know, that's their feelings. They have to express it. So I like that.
That's one of the most quoted entries in the journal, in the book, and now in the movie that people talk about, and men too. And I'm glad Charles shared that, obviously, with Jordan and the world, because he was an alpha man. I mean, not an alpha man, but a powerful figure, this military man. And for him to say it, I think is different from me as a mother telling my son that.
That's right. I love it. Thank you.
Shelby, you have the next question.
Thank you. So did the military play any role in the movie, or did they want to censor any parts of it?
They did not censor. They played a huge, huge role. I'm really grateful to them. So there are scenes with soldiers. All of those are real soldiers, with the exception of maybe a couple of actors. We used real vets. They allowed us to shoot scenes at Fort Irwin. The Iraq scenes are shot at Fort Irwin. We used Arlington Cemetery, which, as you can imagine, is sacred ground. They don't do that lightly. I think we're the first movie since 9/11 to get approval to shoot in Arlington. They're screening it. The military is screening the film in DC. The military could not be more supportive of this movie, and I'm grateful for that.
All right, Angela, you have the next question.
Hi, Dana again.
Hi.
So I want to share a little bit. So last night I was watching this movie with my husband and my son, and he's 14, so he's only a year younger than Charles, and he was totally drawn to the movie. And I have to say, it brought him to tears, and he hugged his father. So
Oh
with
my
that
gosh,
being
I just got
said,
a
yeah,
chill.
it was really, really
Oh my
such a
gosh.
moving movie. And my question to you is, what do you think the takeaway is, or what do you want viewers to go home feeling?
I want them to, first of all, I wouldn't be so presumptuous to suggest what people should feel, but what I would hope is that they have the exact same experience that that your husband and his son had. That's what I'm hoping for. That's why we did this. And I just can't say enough. I think women are going to lead folks to this movie, but grab a man, a son, because it's interesting. The men who have seen it and the boys who have seen it have exactly the same reaction that you just described. I'm not sure it's the kind of movie that necessarily will be led by men, although I think a lot of men will see it. But I think if women can bring men to this movie, they'll be glad they came.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much.
All right, Donna, you have the next question.
Hi again. So the book being a bestseller and then turned into a movie, was that a surprise? I mean, you put your heart out there and you don't know how it's going to be received when you write books and all. So did it turn out to be a surprise that it was such a hit with everyone and that it turned into a movie? Or was chosen for one?
So I don't know if you got that answer or would like for me to start over with it.
That would be great if you could, please. Thank you. I'm so sorry.
Oh, please, not your fault. So if you could ask it again, please.
Well, I was just curious, you put your heart into this book, and when you put books out, you just don't know how they're going to be received.
Oh,
and
yes.
what it's going to be like. Not that I've ever written a book, I'm imagining. But what did it surprise you when it turned into a bestseller? And what were your feelings on when you learned that people loved hearing about this so much?
It was an absolute surprise. I sat down to an empty computer screen, a blank computer screen. And to go from that to this, I could not have imagined and set that up if I planned it. I was writing from a place of both pain and pride. The pain I was going through, having lost him, and the pride in what he left behind and wrote in the journal. And so I knew that the ultimate reader was going to be Jordan. Every chapter of my book starts, Dear Jordan. And so that guided me, but I had no idea whether Jordan and my mother were going to be the only people who read this book or not. And that would have been fine with me. But with God's amazing grace, people embrace the book around the world and are starting to with the movie. And I can't believe it. I mean, that's an honor of a lifetime. I feel like complete strangers are just hugging us and pulling us close. And I'm drawing on that strength and that warmth and that goodness of people. And it uplifts me.
That's awesome. I'm going to be one of those people going to go buy the book after this. I can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next question is with Miss Bailey.
Hi again. I imagine that military families are going to have a different response to the movie. And I wanted to know if there was anything that maybe you have learned or that you would want to share with them.
Well, I've had the good fortune of hearing from military families, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of them over the years since the book came out. And most of them say thank you. So many of us don't have a voice, and you're helping people to understand what military service and sacrifice is like. I don't presume to speak for any military family other than my own, but I think many military families acknowledge that there's some universal things in our story, and that's partly why it resonates. You know, there are family members who, when a loved one goes off to war, have to keep the homework checked and the tires rotated on the car and the bills paid, all the while mindful that every time the phone rings, you're going to jump, or the doorbell, wondering like, is this the day that I'm going to be told my loved one's not going home? And I think this movie, as those of you who've seen it know, you can feel that. And that's what we really wanted to do, so that when American soldiers are in combat, we'll all remember, oh yes, this is what this is like, and keep those families in our prayers and thoughts.
All right, our next question is with Selena.
Hi. I wanted to know how your paths intersected with Denzel Washington and Michael B. Jordan. How did that all come about?
So I first wrote about this in the New York Times, where I was a journalist, because as I said, I knew I was the only national reporter who had this sort of a military loss and wanted to share it with people. I wrote about it in the Times, and one of my colleagues at the Times, after she read it, sent me an email saying, our readers will demand a book. And that's what happened. And so I set out to do the book. Todd Black, our executive producer, who's been Denzel's partner in crime for 30 years, read it and took it to Denzel, and Denzel called me and said, I think I'd be interested in doing this story of your life. And I said, listen, I had my Denzel Washington. His name was Charles. You know, I'm not a Hollywood girl. You know, the only thing I don't want anything from you, except that if you do this movie, please do it well. And I said, and the only other thing I ask is that you meet Jordan, because there is a real Jordan behind this. And Denzel and I have been friends ever since. He invited us out to his movie set of the Pella movie he made, and sat on set in between doing scenes with Jordan all day. And then he and I went out to dinner that evening, and he read the journal. And from there, you know, when the timing was right and we had the right script, he decided he would direct, and he chose Mike. And the first thing I thought is, oh my gosh, Mike and Charles looked alike. And I also knew that Michael was a big and rising star who was very talented. And so it was great to have him involved. And then when it came to Shantae, Denzel and I went over so many names of actresses. And I remember sitting in his living room one day, and he has his computer open. He's looking at actresses. I'm looking at actress names. And I said, what about this one? And so forth. And he said, I'll know her when I see her. And he called me one day and he said, open up your computer. And I said, I'm in the supermarket. And he said, well, go home, open your computer. And when I did, Shantae popped up, and I said, wow, well, she looks like me from back then. I mean, obviously she's a lot younger than I am. She's playing me at a different time in my life. And then we talked on the phone, and she just had this absolutely beautiful spirit, and she really wanted to get to know us. and she was perfect. There's nobody else for this role. She's my little sister now. We rarely
Mhm.
refer to each other by name. We call each other sis. She and her parents are spending Christmas with us. Jordan calls her Auntie. She's been to my beach house for the weekend. I love her. I've got her back for the rest of her life. I'm her big sister, and I'm very protective of her. We're all going to be saying we knew her when.
Mhm. Well, it's an amazing cast, and they did a beautiful job. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. That concludes our roundtable. Please say your goodbyes and make your way out of the Zoom room.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a good
you.
Thank you,
weekend.
ladies.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it. I'm
Thank you.
getting that book. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.